Ladies and gentlemen, we are live here with week 2 predictions for Kyle Orton's Fantasy Football League. We've got some really juicy matchups this week, so let's get right on to it. Let's take an early look at the matchups we have this week. We've got myself, Cali Guy, facing off against another 1-0 opponent, Syncopated Strangers. The commish has a strong squad, but as do I. So let's compare matchups and make our fearless prediction. For the edge on quarterbacks, I don't know. Seems about even to me. Burrow and Bridgewater against Brady and Minshew. I guess it depends on the game Minshew has and how Brady adapts, but I'm just not convinced that Tom Brady is any different than he was. He's 40-something. He's past it. He's got good receivers, but if Godwin is out with his concussion this week, that's really going to hurt him. Gronk didn't look like his former self, looked like he's been wrestling for a year instead of training. And I just can't recommend that combo. Now, Burrow is obviously a wild card, as is Bridgewater, who both are always prepared to put up a dud at some point this season. So those are pretty unreliable. So I will put the quarterbacks at about even. Now, where we make our separation is at running back. Now, it seems that with Clyde and Eckler, I have an extreme advantage over Johnson and Gibson, but Gibson looked pretty spry last week, and I expect him to probably not reach the end zone this week, which he seems like he will be pretty dependent on. David Johnson, who knows? I think that there will be a lot of garbage time for Deshaun and Johnson to eat up the score, but we will see. I will give myself a slight advantage there. As for everything else, pretty even on tight end. Lee with the slight advantage, can't give anyone over Kelsey. And me at receiver, it all depends on if Evans plays and is at full strength, which I don't think he will be, so I will give Lee a slight advantage. Special teams, no one wants to hear about those, so I will give my prediction as a very, very slight victory to Mr. Brian Lee. I will be betting against myself this week because I think Burrow and Bridgewater will have a few down weeks, and that will really hurt me, especially if Evans is not up to snuff. A matchup between two trash teams in the Associates and Better Dolan, both 0-1 predictably. Looking at the two quarterbacks, I see, Bobby is only starting one quarterback. Holy shit, that is horrible. I'm not even going over this. Jeff's going to win. Sorry, Bob. Your team is pretty bad. I mean, Jeff's team is not very good, and your team looks like dog shit compared to it. So we're going to go with Jeff on that one. We'll move on to another matchup. Cancel versus non-cancel culture with Shadows versus Councilman. Let's look at the quarterbacks here. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Kyler this year. I think air raid all the time. I played Butter last week, so I'm pretty familiar with his team. And I will say, outside of McCaffrey, if McCaffrey and Adams don't score about 60 points by themselves, it's going to be a rough sled and uphill with him. Although it can't be overlooked how bad Kenyon Drake or this Thompson, Gesicki, Godert combo looks. Oh, holy shit, that's bad. I think this is going to be a pretty even matchup this week. Most weeks I would favor anyone against Shadows, but this week I am going to favor Shadows by just a bit, just because of his opponent has such a horrible lineup besides his QBs and Tyreek. Okay, Kenyon Drake is fine, I guess. Now we have a very intriguing matchup with our highest score from last week with Didika Express versus Safety Patrol, who had a tough luck loss against Paul. They both kind of underperformed last week, and Safety was just on the wrong end of it, which is a shame. Let's look at the QBs here first. Rodgers had his ass lit on fire last week, and obviously, any week we are doing this, since it's Wednesday, Evan's team could change by Sunday. But going off current rosters, with I don't know how serious Galladay and Smith-Schuster's injuries are, but I'm going to assume they'll play just for this purposes. I love safeties matchups this week, and I think that despite Allen Robinson being a baby, I think he'll have a pretty good game. Along with Amari, I don't know about Gurley. Him in Atlanta doesn't do much for me. But I don't know. I don't like Evan's team that much this week outside of Jacobs and Rodgers. So I'm going to hit up safety. It's a safe week for the Safety Patrol. Really like the matchups this week, especially with Taylor in there. Although Hines looks like the guy. Next up, we got an absolute must-win between, in my opinion, the two worst teams in the league, between Double Chubb and Patriot Pinsk. The Patriot had an okay week last week, but he was on the wrong end of an L. I forgot who he played, so I'm not even going to get into that. But just looking at Double Chubb, besides Elliott, I see nothing. I see a few white bread quarterbacks. Hilton, you can't depend on. Allen, you might as well trade him to Jeff. Chubb was just so disappointing last weekend. I honestly think he's going to have a down year because I think they're going to be losing a lot of games. I'm going to go with Patriot here. I love the combo of Mostert and Henry. I think that's a formidable combo. AJ Brown, I think he's going to pick it up eventually, and I think he has a better matchup against Jacksonville than he did against Denver last week. Deshaun's always going to get his garbage points, especially against Baltimore, because they're going to lose by 30. So I'm going to go with the Patriot this week just because Double Chubb's team is very, very unfortunate. And last but not least, we go to Hot and Nasty versus Love Child, two contenders that have just never quite gotten to the top spot. Both will be desperate for a win coming off a 1-0 start, looking to get going hot and get that much coveted bye that everyone needs usually to get into the promised land. Obviously, both teams are pretty stacked. Spencer's obviously got Jackson and Mahomes, so if he loses any week, he should be shamed. But safety, he's got Wilson and Breeze who could put it up, and they've got some. I don't know about how I guess Wilson has a tough matchup against New England, but for the purposes of time, I'm going to go with the Love Child this week. I think he's just. I don't know. I'm second guessing myself. Barkley against the Bears, Jones against Detroit. This is a tough one. I just don't like safety's overall skill players he's starting this week. So I think that long-term, John Clayton Lovechild's going to be a better team than safety, or than Hot and Nasty, but safety as well. So I think Lovechild takes the win this week. So that is it for your predictions for this week. I'm glad to Zoom, since I Zoom these predictions every week, since I basically live on this platform anyway. Good luck to you all, except for my opponent. I already don't remember who it is, but whatever. Good luck. You all have excellent squads in your own minds, I'm sure. But the cream will start to rise this week, so be prepared. On to Sunday.